Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. Roll call, please. Mrs. Meltzer?
Thank you. Mrs. West?
Here.
Mr. Keys?
Here.
Mr. Pearl?
Here.
Mr. Cannon?
Here.
Mr. Aragona?
Here.
Mr. Gilliam?
Here.
Mrs. Meltzer here.
Are there any additions and/or deletions to tonight's agenda?
Yes, sir, there are deletions. Item 4, item 5, item 10. And there was an add-on, and that is request closed session pending litigation, Roche and others versus Clinton Township, Michigan Tax Tribunal.
Thank you. And Mr.
So
Dolan,
moved.
are we coming out of closed session, Mr. Dolan?
No. Well, we are, but we're not coming out with any decision needed by the board.
Thank you. Support. Thank you. Roll call,
I'm
please.
sorry, didn't hear, who made the motion?
Mr. Pearl?
Thank you.
For the amended agenda,
Yes.
and you added item 12, a closed session.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you, and welcome to your Township Board meeting this evening. If you have anything to say on any item as it comes before the board, please come to the podium and clearly give us your name and address for the record. I have 2 public comments already for the end of the meeting. If there are any others, please fill out a form that's to your left in the front of the room, and we'll hear what you have to say at the end of the meeting. With that, we'll take on item number 1, introduction of applicants for Planning Commission.
Dear board members, there's one open term on the Planning Commission. Please note that this appointment falls under the jurisdiction of the Township Supervisor and is subject to approval by the Township Board. Mr. Douglas Kurd, Mr. Paul Zook, and Mr. Michael Licavoli have submitted their applications for appointment with expiration of term on November 30th, 2022. Per the policy guidelines, an invitation has been extended to all applicants to attend the August 26, 2019 board meeting, in which they will be provided an opportunity to introduce themselves to the Board of Trustees, whereby each being given a 3-minute time limit in which to do so. Sincerely, Stephanie Middlestat, Administrative Assistant.
Thank you. Is Mr. Kurd here?
I don't believe so.
Is Mr. Zook here?
Paul Zook, 38845 Gulfview Drive West, Clinton Township. And I'm one of the 3 applicants for the Planning Commission review. And I know that some of you probably read my little introduction about myself that was submitted. And I just wanted to come in and say that I hope that I can serve the community using the skills I've developed over the past 25 years being in real estate appraisal. I've been watching some of the past planning review that the township put on the YouTube website and heard a lot of very good questions, some questions that I would ask as well that weren't asked, and just hope my application gets considered. And if you have any questions for me, be happy to answer them.
Are there any questions to the board members? Thank you for attending.
Thank you.
Mr. Licavoli? Okay, with that, we'll have a motion to receive and file.
So moved.
Is there a second? Roll call, please.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. And item 2 is introduction of appointment of the applicants to the Compensation Commission for elected officials.
Dear board members, there's one term up for appointment on the Compensation Commission for elected officials. One application for reappointment was received from Ms. Kathy Voss. No other applications were received. Per the policy guidelines, an invitation has been extended to all applicants to attend the August 26, 2019 board meeting, in which they will be provided an opportunity to introduce themselves to the Board of Trustees, whereby each being given a 3-minute time limit in which to do so. Sincerely, Stephanie Middlestat, Administrative Assistant.
Thank you. Mrs. Voss, would you like to say anything?
Kathy Voss, 20215 Webster Street. Thank you for this opportunity to address you regarding the opening on the Compensation Committee. I have been proud to be a member of this committee since its inception. I was approached by Mr. Cannon to apply for the position on this committee back in 2017, which I eagerly did. I was and still am of the opinion that compensation for our board members should be raised. In that regard, all of us on the committee have worked hard to implement a plan that would achieve this and be approved. I hope to do my best serving on the Compensation Committee if reappointed, and to do so with honor and integrity. I've been a longtime resident of Clinton Township, have worked with the board members many times over the years, and hope to do so in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions?
Just a point of clarification, is that part of this? Because I thought it was just an introduction. I thought that we made it clear that there's no, like, back and forth, but if folks have questions, they
No.
should ask it on.
If it's a simple question.
Yeah, okay, all right. I mean, I don't have questions, but I want to know if I'm prepared for that at
No.
board meetings. so-
Really, we wanted an introduction. We wanted to know who you
Yeah.
are. And in some cases, people are brand new to us, so it's our first time to see you.
All
So
right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion is in order to receive and file.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Argona?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Melter, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. And item 3 is introduction of applicants for the EDC, or Economic Development Corporation.
Dear board members, there is one open partial term on the Economic Development Corporation. Please note that this appointment falls under the jurisdiction of the Township Supervisor and is subject to approval by the Township Board. 2 applications have been received from Mr. David Merrill and Mr. Gregory Outland, with expiration of term on July 10th, 2022. No other applications were received. Per the policy guidelines, an invitation has been extended to both applicants to attend the August 26, 2019 board meeting, in which they will be provided an opportunity to introduce themselves to the Board of Trustees, whereby being given a 3-minute time limit in which to do so. Sincerely, Stephanie Middlestead, Administrative Assistant.
Thank you. Is Mr. Merrill here?
Good morning, or good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. I appreciate the opportunity to come in front of you and introduce you to myself. Obviously, my name is David Merrill. My address is 41075 Damask Drive in Clinton Township. I've also been an employee in the city of Clinton Township for the previous 16 years. I also worship here in Clinton Township. I also want to present a opportunity for my children to see their father give back to the community. I believe it's important that we all have the opportunity to be involved in our communities. It's very important that we continue to reinvest in our communities, and that's the only way to do it is by passing that along to our children. With that being said, I've helped grow Pahoa Express grow from a very small company to a fairly large company over the past 16 years, and I would hope that I would have the opportunity to be able to serve you guys and to visit with you guys more often, so that way we can continue to learn and help develop our area of the city. So I appreciate your time and your consideration. I'm open to any questions if you do have them. Otherwise, you guys have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Is Mr. Greg Outland here? Okay, a motion to receive and file is in order.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Pearl, supported by Mrs. West. Roll call, please.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Argona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Melter, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. Items 4 and 5 have been deleted. Item 6, renewal of township liability insurance policy.
Here comes the hot seat.
Is that coming up? Hang on 1 minute. Okay. Sorry. Dear Mrs. Loretti, in anticipation of the September 1st, 2019 renewal of the property and liability coverages secured by the township, please accept the enclosed proposals that reflect certain coverages offered by both the Travelers Insurance Companies and Trident Argonaut. Travelers has afforded insurance coverages to the township since 2001. We are pleased to declare that Travelers continues to operate as an admitted carrier within the state of Michigan and has been awarded an AM Best rating of A++ XV stable. The rating currently assigned to Travelers is the highest rating awarded by AM Best. Argonaut also operates as an admitted carrier and has been awarded an AM Best rating of AXIV stable. Besides Travelers, well, I guess I should have said that. So that would, the stable or the A++ 15 is the Travelers rating, and then the Argonaut is the 14 stable reading. Besides Travelers and Trident, we also approached 7 other insurance carriers this year. One Beacon, provided a proposal. The remaining 6 all declined to offer proposals. You will recall that earlier we met to discuss our marketing process, efforts, and results in detail. As the township is engaged in a self-insured retention SIR program, the services of a third-party administrator, TPA, are required. The township currently contracts with Broadspire, formerly known as Crawford and Company, for TPA services within the SIR. As we have in the past, we will continue to pursue subrogation efforts on behalf of the township for property damage caused by others. This is a service that is offered at no additional cost to the township. To date, we have collected over $71,515, which is $5,158 in the past year from 3 different claims for vehicle and property damage caused by third parties. Collections occur under mini tort and property protection insurance, which is PPI payments, both part of Michigan's no-fault statutes, from 39 different claims. Enclosed, please find the following. 1, a court certificate of insurance that reflects the errors and omissions coverages secured by our agency. 2, copies of actual proposals issued by Travelers and the Trident for major lines of coverage. 3, premium summary reflecting premium by line of afforded coverage. The premium summary is formatted as a spreadsheet. The afforded limits, proposed premiums, and additional details are reflected. Also, a column reflecting the expiring Travelers program details is included for comparison purposes. Please review these documents and contact our office with questions or concerns. We have enjoyed our past relationship with the township and hope to be able to continue to offer our services in the future. Thank you sincerely, Stephen Saff, Jr., President of Nicklin Saff.
Thank you. Mr. Saff is here this evening. If there are comments or questions of board members or community members. Mr. Gilliam?
Steve, if you could come on up. So this was one of the most fascinating meetings I've been in since I've been here, and I know it's like it kind of surprised me too. So, but the fact
Insurance and fascinating.
Yeah, really.
So, all right, okay, that does sound a little strange, but so really, the process here is really fascinating to me because we're self-insured. So basically that means, so any claim up to $100,000, we pay directly, right?
Correct.
And then anything over that, any settlement, any agreement, any court judgment, that then goes to the insurance company.
Legal expenses also are part of that.
Yep.
Both within the SIR, you're responsible for those up to $100,000 per claim or wrongful act, and excess of the SIR, the carrier then assumes those responsibilities.
Right. The other thing that I thought was interesting is, so you did a pretty exhaustive, you didn't just send it out to everybody, you actually went to these companies one by one, said, give us the, the forms that you want us to fill out so you can fully bid, right?
Correct.
And you had, so how many of those applications were completed?
I believe there were 4 individual custom applications, which I shared with all of the carriers that we approached.
So you had to go to all of our staff and all the departments that had claims and basically ask them for a ton of information.
Not only if they've had claims or not, but we had to inform and educate an insurance underwriter who may know nothing about Clinton Township about the nature of the exposures and the operations. So we, fortunately, a lot of your department heads took an inordinate amount of time answering questions, and many of these questions were similar, but posed in different areas, asking tweaked differences. So we went back and forth because of these 4 different applications, developed as much as we could to get these to the carrier. So it was an education process for the underwriters, but thankfully your department heads took a lot of time to work with us to fill out the applications.
Great, right. And so you said you approached 7 companies, but only 4 wanted to even look at our business.
We approached 9 companies.
Oh, I'm sorry, 9 companies.
3
Okay.
companies gave us quotes.
And only 3 gave us quotes. Why would you say, how would you characterize that low level of responses?
Well, I think it's a high level of response,
Okay.
considering public sector, public entity.
Okay.
I was pleased by that. We did have some carriers that were not participating in the SIR marketplace. We did have some carriers that had some question about the township's prior claim experience. But in general, I'm pleased with the results that we obtained.
Okay, all right. And so your role in this is as our insurance agent. In other words, you're the person that helps us shop for this insurance.
Yeah, I take
Right.
the information that is provided, we assemble it in a format that I shared with the board. Carriers have proprietary formats, we fill that information out. We work with the carriers, engage with them, answer their questions, try to provide as much detail to give them a comfort level so they do indeed think that there is enough interest to offer a proposal.
So based upon the rates, you're recommending that we go with Trident. Travelers was our previous carrier. They have a little bit higher rating than Trident does, but Trident was offering better rates. Give us a little bit of a snapshot of what the difference is between those two different Roman numeral figures there in the letter.
The Roman numeral figures represent category size. The carriers' ratings range from 1 through 15, 15 obviously being the highest. So as we look at Travelers, they have surplus, which is the amount of equity over their outstanding liabilities, which is important to a consumer as far as what's available to pay claims or be functional over a period of time. So Travelers is the highest rating, and Argonaut is one notch below at 14. The 14 represents over $5 billion in surplus. I think the 15 represents over $5.5 billion.
Okay, all right. But both are rated high enough where you feel comfortable with the amount of coverage, the size, the capacity to handle the township's insurance
Yes.
needs? Okay, great.
We've had relationships with both, actually, we've had relationships with all three carriers that provided quotes. So we've had experience within the office with their underwriting practices, their claims administration practices, and we're confident with the responding carriers.
Great. I also want to thank you for sending those applications over, because they actually were interesting to read as well.
Well, again, you've got your department heads, chief took a lot of time. I think police probably got the brunt of that because of the nature and the concerns about law enforcement exposures. But Mr. Smith, right on down the line, department heads really gave us a lot of detail. They drilled down and gave us operational information that you obviously saw in those applications
Yep.
that, again, helped inform a carrier about the exposures that exist.
Great. I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate the way that you go about your business.
Do you have a question?
Mr. Gann?
Did you have something?
Yeah, I have.
Mrs. Melser?
I have a question, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Steve, thank you
Yes.
for having the separate meeting to go over this, because there was quite a bit of detail you were giving us. Now, this has nothing to do with property coverage.
Yeah, well, it does. The Travelers, we're looking at a hybrid here. We're dealing with two insurance companies. Should the township make a decision to change the casualty or liability coverages from Travelers to Argonaut, we will retain the property and inland marine coverages with Travelers. Historically, I've worked with two separate divisions of Travelers. Travelers is a international company. They've got, as you can imagine, they've established different centers of business depending upon the nature of the risk and the nature of the exposures. The people that I deal with property are at a separate location, separate underwriters, entirely different from those that I've historically worked with from the casualty side. So looking at the two-thirds of the premium being in the casualty side and knowing the marketplace, we focused on that portion.
Okay, but the property insurance you're indicating is additional,
Correct.
and that's not included in the categories.
It is not. That, if you look back in the information that I provided, I think I identified the number for the property at 188.
Correct,
188,000.
right.
Yep, here we go. $188,772. That represents over $131 million in insurable property values for your buildings and contents, and over $7 million in inland marine coverages.
And none of the other companies would bid property?
The short answer is yes, they would have, but my experience, I knew where the market was. This was the place to be for the property.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the work you put into it. In my regular job, we have a person like you that does that work for us, and every year they have to go out and do the same thing. It's much more complex than municipal, but there is a certain problem out there trying to get insurance coverage in Michigan.
Coverage is available. What we're finding is, as in many industries, consolidations occur, appetites change. You just have to be monitoring, involved, and keeping an eye on things.
So we're going to have a savings, not only from the last year's, but obviously a larger one from what travelers want.
Well,
to
based
renew.
upon the expiring, you're looking at a savings of $54,000, assuming that you change from the expiring travelers program, which was approximately $669,000, and change to the Trident Argonaut Travelers program, which would be $614,000. So you're looking at a savings of $54,123 there. The difference between travelers as a combined program would have been an increase of $38,000 over the expiring year.
Does Travelers Property expire the same time as this?
Yes,
And they're willing to keep that part of it?
absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you for all the work you put into this.
Mrs. Meltzer?
Thank you. Just for clarification, so we are approving option one, which is the 100,000 SIR self-insured retention, 500,000 aggregate stop loss at $426,138,
Plus the $188,000
772.
for the travelers
Yeah,
property. Yeah.
okay.
So that's combined $614,910.
Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Support.
Further comments?
Just real quick, so how does the transition work? I guess I didn't think about this when we were in the meeting, but for claims that are currently going on that are under the existing policy, and then we're changing providers, the previous company still has to handle those claims, right?
Correct.
Okay. And we're able to hold them accountable on that? There haven't been issues
Absolutely.
in transition?
No.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Roll call?
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. Thanks, Steve. Item 7, approval for Station 4 seams repair.
Dear Honorable Board members, I'm ready to request approval for parking lot seam repair at our headquarters located at 42601 Romeo Plank Road. Bids for this work were requested, and we received one bid totaling $76,750. This is the budgeted item in the 2019-2020 fiscal year for $75,000. Therefore, we are requesting approval to exceed the original budgeted cost coverage of $1,750 to come out of capital outlay line item 206-336-977.000. I thank you for your attention to this matter. Sincerely, Timothy Duncan, Fire Chief.
It has become a hazard at the station, and this will clean it up, but we do have a lot of public events in this area.
And Holzbeck Construction is the vendor.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Support.
Supported by Mr. Gilliam. Roll call, please.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. And item 8 is the adoption of Township Ordinance 458, an amendment to the Consumer Fireworks Ordinance, and I will remind the board that Mr. Dolan was instructed, and he did include the strictest type of code we could have for fireworks in Clinton Township.
And we did address this at the last meeting, explaining exactly what it does, so I can make a motion to approve.
Support.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes. Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And item 9, introduction of ordinance 459, revision to the fence ordinance.
Dear Ms. Meltzer, as discussed at the July 15th, 2019 board meeting, we have drafted revisions to the fence ordinance providing for an appeal to the Zoning Board of Appeals instead of the Township Board, where relief from the ordinance has been requested following a denial or upon the recommendation by the Building Department. As a regulatory ordinance, this ordinance will require introduction at a first meeting and adoption at a second meeting. Should you have any questions or need anything further, please do not hesitate to contact me. We remain very truly yours, York Dolan and Tomlinson, PC, John Dolan.
Thank
So
you.
moved.
Thank you for the introduction.
Support.
Roll call, please.
I'm sorry, Mr. Keys, did you make that motion?
I did.
Excuse
yes.
me, hold on one sec. Yes, sir.
Does the fence ordinance, does it apply to both residential, commercial, and industrial?
Mr. Dolan?
Yes, the ordinance that's before the board does.
Does, okay, thank you, that's all I wanted to know.
Thank you. Roll call?
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Argona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Melter, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. And item 11, request update from the Rubbish Committee regarding the trash hauling contracts.
Item 10, presentation, was that deleted?
Yes.
I
It's been
apologize.
deleted.
Okay. Yes, okay. Is there a letter? Let's see here. Just one moment. Dear Board of Trustees, at the January 14, 2019 meeting of the Clinton Township Board of Trustees, members Gilliam, West, and Keys submitted a very strong letter regarding the township's waste hauling services. In the letter, these three trustees made the request that the board direct the Refuse Committee to do the following. Number one, research comparable rates and begin the preparation of a bid process to be brought back before this township board. Number two, inform the board of their findings on a rate study and a proposed timeline for implementing the bid process. And three, have township attorney advise the board on what notifications need to be provided to the current waste hauling contractor pursuant to provision number 11 in the current waste hauling agreement. The letter also states competitive bidding is the way, is the way that we ensure the public that they receive the best service at the best rates. Contracts of this magnitude need to be immune to any efforts to subvert the law for personal gain. Competitive bidding can provide the public with at least some assurance that the township has a rigorous process for awarding contracts. Further, Mr. Gilliam is quoted in the Macomb Daily on January 14, 2019, stating that the township's rubbish contract is tainted and we have the responsibility to look at it. While Mr. Gilliam was successful in getting front-page coverage by stating that the township has a tainted contract, I would argue that it was irresponsible and reckless to use such loaded language without providing any evidence. Nevertheless, here we are in late August, and there has been no report from the Refuse Committee. Why has this so-called important and urgent matter not been addressed? In fact, the committee has not met since March 26, 2019. There has been more than sufficient time for the committee to do a rate study and make a recommendation to the board, unless, of course, our contract is sound and perhaps trustees West, Keys, and Gilliam were mistaken in their allegations, and we have a solid contract with GFL after all. The draft meeting minutes indicate that our staff resoundingly approve of the services we are receiving and that Clinton Township has a good contract. I am requesting Mr. Gilliam, Chair of the Refuse Committee, give an update to the board on August 26th on why the Refuse Committee has not met since March and why this matter has been obviously placed on the back burner. I would also like Mr. Gilliam the following questions. I would also ask him, where is the rate study you asked for? Where are the bid documents you asked the committee to prepare? Where is the evidence that our contract is tainted? If it has been determined that the township is indeed receiving the best service at the best rates, where is a letter to the board from the Refuse Committee indicating as such, so we can put this matter to rest? Sincerely, Robert Cannon, Supervisor. Did you want the addition contract?
I'm sorry.
There's also a backup on here,
Well, the backup is the,
just what you reflected in the letter.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm happy to take the floor.
you've got it.
Okay, so that was a very, very long and aggressive way and somewhat of a spectacle in saying, hey, Paul, what's going on with the Refuse Committee? If that was the question, I'm happy to provide an answer. The committee met, as you indicated, on March 26th. As you know, because the minutes are contained actually within the agenda packet that was provided to the board that you requested be included. And so you know exactly what happened at the meeting, but I can help to summarize because the first issue, Mr. Dolan informed us that we have a contract that requires GFL to perform whether they like it or not, or whether it's profitable or not. GFL said they need help on recycling. Further, staff suggested that they did not think we were in a competitive market and provided a rate study to support that. They didn't anticipate better rates through a bid process. there was a discussion about the rate study prepared by Public Services. I think Ms. West, who serves on the committee and was in attendance, can provide that. That was great work by Public Services Department, Ms. Bednar. They didn't anticipate better rates as we went about going out for bid. So in response, what I suggested was an intermediary step, and that is a request for information. So Mr. Dolan then communicated that it's an option that local governments use all the time to test markets. Mr. Dolan also confirmed that issuing a request for information from other vendors would not void our contract. As well, going out for bid wouldn't even void the contract, but again, GFL would still be required to perform. Staff felt uneasy with going out for an RFP and an RFI. I agreed to hold off on pushing the issue. We attempted to schedule another meeting to continue our discussion, and we thought that GFL was a necessary component of that. And so we reached out to GFL, and they declined to meet. We said, I thought you wanted to talk about the basics for relief on recycling. They still declined to meet, saying first that they had a problem at the Detroit incinerator. Then they further responded on the recycling issue by saying that they've come up with sort of an internal solution to their recycling issues. So the short answer is, it's still a work in progress. We're still working with staff. Rather than shoving it down their throats, we decided that we would hold back and we would continue to look at this. And I still believe that a request for information is the right way to go. It doesn't take it to a formal bid process, a request for proposals. But in a sense, we're getting the same thing. But we're also wanting to make sure that the staff is comfortable with that as well. That's in a sense where we're at with the committee. But make no mistake, this is a second extension to an extension that was done under the auspices of an illegal act and illegal players. The two parties that were at the table for that first extension, two of those people are in prison now. And so I understand this is a new company. I understand it's another provider that has sort of assumed that role, that they're required to perform under that, but this is tainted by the way that it was put together. If you recall, the original extension was a recommendation from the Refuse Committee to say we should go out for bid for waste services. At that time, Dean Reynolds popped up with, hey, I just happen to have some numbers here from Rizzo Services, and they're great numbers, and I don't think we could do any better if we were to go out for bid. And that was agreed to on a 4-3 vote. They then approached us for the second extension. They wanted to extend it for this unheard of length of time because they were going to purchase the trash carts. We said, yeah, the trash carts are great for our community because it helps control the rat population. It helps keep the trash contained. But Mr. Sowerby was wise enough to negotiate a provision within the contract, provision number 11, which says with 120 days notice, after the extension of the first, or excuse me, after the expiration of the first extension, we could then go out for bid. So that date occurred, I believe, on November 30th of 2018, when that first extension expired. And so in January, we said, yes, let's put this committee together. But we're not going to do it in a way that it's usually done around here. We're going to do it in a way that involves people, that we talk about it, that we try to build consensus around what we want to do. I still believe it should go out for bid, but I'm willing to say we should compromise and do an RFI.
Are you done?
I am?
Okay. You would not have let 5 months go by from a committee meeting to not get a report. You know that. When we had an ethics committee going, you were on the chair of that committee relentlessly. Where is the foot dragging, you kept saying? So what I'm saying here, we extended a contract by a 4-3 vote in 2014 for 5 years. That was the original contract that we have with Rizzo. It was a contract extension. There were no new terms with one exception. We went from paying the authority, which was going to dissolve, to paying the company direct. We had a great rate and we had better service. That same contract was brought forward, and I'm glad it was because it's a great contract, in 2016. And it was still Rizzo, and we actually have the contract through potentially 2026. The extension changed, the contract did not. Recycling became a key issue. And recycling became a key issue because initially, when it was in our contract, they were making about $100 a ton. Today, they're paying over $100 a ton to get rid of it. So if we were to bid the contract, we would lose at least 7 years of free recycling that we have currently in our contract. I don't think we should bid the contract. I think it's a great contract. Every person in DPW has indicated that. Every person at the meeting indicated that. All future contracts will have a surcharge for recycling unless a community decides not to recycle, which is why it's hard to compare rates from one community to the next. I don't think the people in Clinton Township are ready to say we don't want to recycle.
No.
If we went out to bid, we will be paying more money. That's what I want your committee to come back and indicate to us, because that is currently the fact. Other communities locally have done that. I've talked to supervisors in other communities who say they made the mistake of thinking they were going to get lower rates. Their rates came back higher, most notably recently Chesterfield, and I think that was even mentioned in your meeting. So as far as I'm concerned, we deserved a report back to this board. And Mrs. Meltzer?
Mr. Cannon, through you to our attorney, Jack Dolan, can you explain, if we did go out to bid, would it require also GFL to also be able to bid, and then we would have to accept their bid? Or by going out to bid, we could preclude them from the bid process? And then, in other words, if nobody else bid anything better than what GFL already offered us, we wouldn't be out any money.
The contract document that we currently have with GFL doesn't by its terms impose any restrictions on who could be included or not included in the class of future bidders. We could design bidding documents as we saw fit. It would be highly unusual to design bidding documents and explicitly deny what otherwise would appear to be qualified bidder from bidding. You'd have to have some good reason to do that, in my opinion, or at minimum, face a lot of public concerns being raised as to the legitimacy of excluding them. So it's questionable that you can legally do that. I would recommend it against it because it just wouldn't make sense to basically single a particular contractor out unless there was some basis for doing that. It's been my opinion, and I expressed it in the meeting, that we are not contractually bound to avoid rebidding, that we could in fact rebid and choose simply not to accept the results of the bid and stay with the current provider. But it's also been suggested by me and others, and I think it seems clear from the facts that we have, that the current provider, although all reports are that they're performing and we're not having problems with performance, has a certain sense of urgency about trying to avoid the terms of the contract. They've come forward to us now with several proposals each citing different reasons and each proposing to see the contract revised in some way to try to relieve them from what they perceive, in my opinion, as a financial burden associated with the contract. So although it's my opinion that I believe we would succeed and that we have that authority to do so, it's also my opinion that if we start to get involved in a bid process, that it could end up resulting in us getting embroiled in litigation. Even though, again, I feel that we would prevail if that were the case. So we're sort of in this situation. We have a strong legal position, but we also, due to the circumstances of urgency of the contractor, face a situation where if they see some opening that they think they might be able to take advantage of, they may well do that. That's basically been my position on this throughout. I'm not going to discuss the details of my position. I prefer to do that in closed session to protect the township and its taxpayers in terms of the legal theories that I have on that. But to more or less just state as black and white terms as I can and understandable, I do think we have a legal position where we could rebid, but we certainly would not be in a position of awarding unless we felt that it was a result that was to our benefit.
So if I can, Mr. Cannon, you're basically saying that we have such a good contract right now, and by comparison to what other communities are paying, it would be risky for us to go out to bid. And it's possible, too, where because of the situation, and I'm just looking at this article in the paper that was copied and part of the process, and it says here the contract is tainted and we have the responsibility to look at it, said Paul Gilliam, the township treasurer. The issue wasn't that our contract was tainted, it was that there was actions going on with the company with that part was tainted. But our contract itself was never tainted. So the actual verbiage in here is not, in my opinion, accurate, and it is also very politically opportunistic, which is very characteristic of our treasurer.
Excuse me.
Excuse nothing. I have a right to say this.
She has the floor.
It's printed in the paper. And the fact of the matter is it's in ink, and now it was just trying to capitalize on the political opportunity, which was inaccurate. So there was nothing tainted about our contract. We have a phenomenal contract with GFL. We have no complaints with GFL. Things are going well, and to risk going out for bid, as our attorney said, it could be risky to go out to bid. It could be in that they may come back and we may be presented with a legal challenge. So I know that Trustee West and Trustee Keys wrote a memo to their fellow Board of Trustees meetings asking for new competitive bids. If we do go that may put us in a very difficult position. So I think that what is kind of going on here now is that you're not wanting to face the music because you know going out when you guys have said always and under no uncertain terms that you have to bid a contract. It isn't necessarily true in every case, and this is one of those cases. I normally agree that we would want to bid out a contract, but in this case, we've looked at other communities. We've seen what happened when they went out to bid, and our attorney just said we may be in a riskier position by going out to bid. So I think this is, unfortunately, it's in the papers, it's miscommunicated, but that's, like I said, was about political opportunity at the time, but it didn't make it true. So
Mr. Dolan?
I agree with our supervisor on this.
Mr. Dolan?
Yes, sir.
Oh, and one more thing, if I can just add. You brought up Mr. Reynolds. Mr. Reynolds' issue was with Giffords Webster. Was he ever convicted of any wrongdoing with GFL? Was that part of it?
I'm not
The whole
sure.
Rizzo.
Yes.
So the whole thing was with Rizzo.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
okay, well, I thought that it was with Giffords. It
Well,
was
you thought
Giffords
wrong.
Webster.
No, it was totally
Yeah, it
Rizzo.
said for paying $16,000
First of
to
all, that's
Reynolds
not-
as a bribery
We're not going to
conspiracy.
get out, we're not going to start going
So-
back and forth.
So the point is that trying to, again, bring all this up really gives, Clinton Township a black eye in that You guys want to keep bringing this up because it's for your own political gain.
We didn't bring it
Instead
up.
of looking at what's best
Mr.
for the
Gilliam,
people of Clinton
please.
Township, you're putting politics ahead of that. And that's where I say, you know what? That is unethical. You don't put politics before what is best for the people of Clinton Township.
The rubbish company has come back to us and asked for an increase due to the change in recycling. We have a contract that we can keep in force for another 7 years, and you're with no increase for the recycling. In your opinion, is that a sound contract, and we would be able to continue with that?
Yes, the question that you're asking is whether or not the change in circumstance with recyclables, in my opinion, would give them an opportunity to avoid enforcement of the contract. My answer to that is no, I don't
Thank you.
believe it.
That's why this is doubly a good contract. It's the same contract that we started with when we awarded the contract to Rizzo years ago, and when we had the first extension, and when we had the second extension. Mr. Keys, you had your hand up?
Thank you, Mr. Cannon. I think that on this board, you can talk about putting politics over policy. What you've done by putting this on the agenda with the charged letter is just that. And Ms. Melcher, I apologize I interrupted you, but again, you were speaking to a member of this board's character, not about the issue in front of us. And that's why I interrupted, so I do apologize about that. But that's what I'd like to avoid here, is going after each other's character when we have policy disagreements. We can increase communication and have Mr. Cannon talk with Mr. Gilliam prior to putting something like this on the agenda. That's fine. But again, I have faith that Mr. Gilliam can represent himself here today. What I want to do, though, is let you know why I support still going out for bid. We can sit here and talk about how the company was tainted, but not the contract. What gives Clinton Township a black eye is not the 3 board members trying to fix this. It's the bags of cash that were given to an elected official here in Clinton Township. That's what gives the black eye. It's our former township officials and contractors going to jail and sitting in court that gives the black eye, not us trying to then fix the situation. We're talking about a contract that doesn't expire until 2020, that it was initially brought to this board in 2010.
26.
2026, thank you. That is not common. That should not be the practice of Clinton Township. We should be going out to bid every 5 years, and at the very least, if you don't want to go out to bid because of the climate, we do exactly what we just talked about with the insurance companies. He just sat up here and said, every year we do a review of this, so that way we make sure that you're getting the best rates. Now, what Mr. Gilliam has asked for in that committee reviewing the minutes, and I'll be honest, as the young, eager one in me, thinking, I want to go out to bid right now. That's what I want to do. But I'm willing to respect the opinions of our employees and of the refuse committee. If they feel that at this time it's best to go out for a request for information, that's what I'd like to support. And I think that the rest of this board should be willing to do so. We have a contract that we need to get on top of. And yes, you're right, we may be getting the best rates, but this idea, and I will use the word, it's fear-mongering what you're doing by saying that if we go out to bid or we look for a request for information, we somehow lose this contract. I've been on the phone with Mr. Dolan many times on this issue. And yes, there is a fear that we could get sued. And the advice on this board many of you have given me is any decision we make, there's a fear of being sued. And so when we want to make sure that we're holding the highest ethical standard, it's okay to say that we want to go out and look for pricing. Yeah, you're right. We have a rate study. I think it's a very good job. The one thing I'll notice right off the bat is we only looked at municipalities that have GFL as their contractor. We didn't look at other companies and other communities that have different contractors. So that's the next step. And to somehow suggest that we then void out the current contract is not only short-sighted, it's not just silly, but it's a lie. Mr. Dolan has advised us that there is a case where we could be sued and they could try to come after us, but he's also said that he feels that we are on sound legal ground and he feels that we would win that case. And I'll tell you that, again, many people on this board have given me the advice that, Mike, yeah, no matter what decision you make, you have the fear of getting sued. Well, I'll tell you right now, I want to make sure it's on the record that I stand firm that going out to bid is the best solution for Clinton Township. If the Refuse Committee and our employees are telling me, Mike, slow down, I'd rather go this option first, I'm willing to listen to that. So thank you for your time.
So what you missed is the whole point. The Refuse Committee hasn't met since March.
Can I respond to that?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon, I'm going to give you all due respect. I've had issues that have been sitting in a committee that were under $100 purchase that have been there for a year and a half. Whether it's the building committee, budget, ways or means, this idea that you somehow want to push an idea through is laughable to me. And I want to keep this respectable, but to come into this boardroom and say that 5 months isn't enough time to, that it should be rushed even sooner than that is laughable to me. If you really wanted to, put your best foot forward, you would have called Mr. Gilliam and attended the meeting,
What meeting?
the first meeting.
Even the one in March.
I'm not on that
Okay,
committee.
well, so what I'm saying, you don't sit on many committees that I sit on that you've shown up to the meeting for and participated. So this idea that you want to say that this is somehow needs to be rushed when the contract doesn't even end until 2022 and the staff is giving the recommendation in the minutes, they're talking about their next course of action. I don't know if you didn't take the time to read the minutes, but that's becoming very clear to me.
I read the minutes very closely, and that's why I put it on the agenda, because I think that you're doing a great job of deflecting what I'm asking for. You're doing a fabulous job. But I'm asking for the committee to come back with a report. Read the last four things.
Can I respond to
Where is
that,
the rate
then?
study I asked for? Well, I got it tonight. Where is the bid documents? Where is the evidence that our contract is tainted? The contract is not tainted, as Mrs. Meltzer said. It's a fabulous contract. And that's why we extended it several times already. And it is still a fabulous contract. It has been determined that the township is indeed receiving the best service. That's said over and over by the people that handle the rubbish service in our DPW departments. So yes, I would like a final report. I'd like to put it to rest, whether it takes 5 meetings, but I'd like the meetings to start taking place. When you put the letter on the agenda in January, the three of you could have come and talked to us too. You could have said, what should we be doing? But no, you put a letter on the agenda and then made some comments to the press that were inflammatory, that did make the community look bad. And I didn't like that. And it wasn't fair, because it's not the contract. It's several people who were involved in the contract who are no longer part of our society. So I would like the committee to meet, and I would like an answer to the board. Mr. Aragona?
Yeah, Mr. Cannon, I do have one quick question. The rate study you asked for, is this document that we just received?
I just got that.
Okay, where did that come from?
That Mary Bednar and the DP, Department of Public Services, put that together.
Okay, I mean, in my opinion, I do agree with
Actually-
I got a copy of that either.
Well,
Was at the meeting?
Oh,
you
yeah.
got two there?
I'm sorry, Mr. Cannon, may I?
You pass one down?
Mr. Aragona has the floor.
Yeah, no, I actually agree
with.
with Mr. Keys. I noticed that when I got it, I mean, there's a lot of good information on here, but it is a bit homogeneous. So if we want Mrs. Bednar to do it, if you guys want me to do it, it's fine. I mean, I think it's simply a phone call to similar communities as ours. If you take a look at the square footage and the population and just see what their waste hauler is, and then try and find some that aren't using GFL and are using another waste hauler, and just see what those rates are, because I think that's what we were looking for. I think that's what we all agreed that we were looking for back in January. I know that's not going to be a very, very easy task. I'm saying just make a phone call, but from what I gathered out of the news, there was people in Rizzo who made sure to bid extremely low so that they could then turn around and sell the company. I think it was even mentioned in the minutes. So that's not a super easy task, but if you want me to do it, if you want Mary Bednar to do it, whoever it happens to be, I do agree that this is a bit homogeneous, and maybe we should get one or two other waste haulers in this rubric if we can.
I don't disagree, but I think the committee needs to meet, and that's what I'm requesting.
I would also agree with
All right,
that.
Mr. Cannon, can I ask Mr. Aragon a question?
Yes.
Who does Harrison use?
GFL.
JFL, okay.
Further comments from the board? Yes, sir.
Sam Bushel, 18546 Wayland. To say the contract isn't tainted when anything that's born of, the company, they gave the lowest bid, but they could afford to give a whole bunch of bribes, means that maybe the lowest bid wasn't the lowest bid, what the lowest cost. And to have a no-bid contract, then renewed and renewed again, when the company changed, it would be like the towing company, that they lost their everything because of, they went to jail. And all of a sudden, it's a new company because the daughter of the owner is the new, and townships and cities are signing up with them again. it doesn't make sense. It is tainted. I think the only way you're going to take the taint out of it is to actually prove, if you're very confident, it's easy to prove by going out to other trash haulers and getting some bids in. You can prove that this is the best contract, and then you'll say, gee, it was lucky they were just trying to sell the company and they got us a low contract. But you can't say it's not tainted when the company had enough money to throw around a lot of bribes. Thank you.
The contract is not tainted. The people who were involved, some of them were tainted. Not all of them were tainted. And I will tell you that I would be glad to bid this out if I was assured that we could keep this contract when all the other bids came in way above it and keep us not paying for recycling, which we're not paying for now.
Sounds like our attorney feels we're in a very good position to do that. Thank you.
Mr. Gilliam?
So if you read the minutes, it's all over there. There's nothing that prevents us from testing the waters. Intermediary step, go out for a request for information, which is the sort of precursor to a request for proposals. Even if we went out for either one of those, we are still solid in the contract. We're not risking anything, as I stated over and over again, which seems to fall underneath people's level of understanding. Rizzo still has to perform under the contract at the rates. So it was stated at the meeting, there's not a really strong competitive market. There have been tons of mergers of all these waste companies. There's very few that are actually bidding on these. This chart contains information which was discussed at the committee meeting, all GFL providers, because GFL is bidding on everything and Waste Management is coming in higher, and those are really the only two that are bidding on stuff. However, that's not to say that there aren't other players in the market. There are other companies. Advanced Disposal is out there. New companies are starting up because it's an anti-competitive market, and anytime there's an anti-competitive market, companies do form to try to be able to compete. So we don't need to ask it another way. We don't need to talk about it further. They still have to perform. We can go out for a request for proposal or a request for information either way, and if we don't like the bids that come back, we can simply dispose of them and say, Rizzo, we're keeping you. Perform under the terms of this contract.
Okay, two things.
Secondly, we do have a responsibility to balance rates that residents have to pay and the process by which we make decisions. That is what we're here for. We could just let staff run it. They wouldn't need us if process didn't matter. People elect us to sit here to make these decisions based upon conducting an exhaustive process and a thorough process to make sure that the decisions we're making is the right thing. Then they get to hold us accountable for them. And then second, or I'll just add this, Dean Reynolds was the person who piped up with, hey, I just happen to have these great numbers. But he didn't get that contract through, that extension through by himself. He had 3 other votes to get that contract through. I'm proud to say I wasn't one of them.
Well,
And so then, how many issues where we've had virtually no import, but because of who they were introduced by, they've languished in the Budget Ways and Means Committee. I think that point was already made. I don't need to make it again. Throughout the minutes, oh, yeah, and then one more thing. The 2 reasons for the meeting were, 1, looking at whether we need to improve the process by going out for bid, and 2, looking at this recycling issue. We received a letter from GFL saying they wanted relief for the recycling. We then received a letter in May that says, we've come up with our own internal solution for that recycling issue, and so we're not asking for any more relief. We also approached GFL to ask them to meet with us, and they said, we'll let you know when we want to meet. So that issue's taken off the table, in my opinion, in terms of the recycling. So the only thing left is, do we need to improve the process by which we make decisions? I still believe we do.
Well, then you better meet, because it's been 5 months since the committee met.
Yeah,
And that's the
And I'll
reason for the
continue to work
request.
with staff.
Okay.
And you can pick up the phone anytime and give me a call, Mr. Cannon. You don't have to do this like a little road show here.
The roadshow started in January.
No,
When you used the word
We were
you
talking
used.
about process then, we are talking about process now.
Exactly.
You are the one that is talking about politics.
No, I am not. I'm talking about meeting. Mrs. Meltzer, you have the floor.
The process, then, what I'm asking, through you, Mr. Cannon, to Mr. Gilliam, is it part of the process to wait 5 months and not have any response on something that what this board has asked you to give a report on? I understand that, you said it's up, from your opinion, you think that the issue is a moot issue now, it's over and done with because GFL released us from any issues with recycling. However, you could have contacted the board and said you had that conversation and that you're not moving forward with it, or the committee is going to meet again. Also, on April 5th, I asked you, I said it was fine if you needed to cancel the committee meeting, but can you follow up with me and the committee on what happened with the reason why the incinerator is being closed? There was no comment. I didn't get a comment from you. So the issue.
I have no idea why the incinerator in Detroit was
Well,
closed.
but I don't have anything from you. You're not responding. You're not, putting together the meetings to communicate. And I think that's what this whole thing is about. It's about saying at one point, you're saying, we need to perfect our processes, but you're the one, delaying the process. So Mr. Cannon is asking, I serve on this committee too, and I'm saying, let's, schedule a committee and get this taken care of.
That's what I'm asking.
Mr. Cannon?
And I don't have any issue with that.
Fine.
I'm on that committee too. I'll meet anytime. Just let me know.
I mean, I think we've got an arrangement here. They're going to meet.
Yeah, I recognize me.
Yeah.
Thank you. I do think that this whole board should speak on this, and I think that it'd be great. I'll make a motion to direct the township attorney to work with the refuse committee and township staff to perform a request for information from refuse companies and current rates.
Support.
Great.
Can we get, the whole thing has just been about a time frame. So I'm sorry,
Yeah, go ahead.
can we just get like a time frame, whether it's 60 days, 90 days, 120, 160, whatever it happens to be?
6 years.
90 days.
Not 6
90
years,
days is
Mrs.
good.
West, no?
If Mr. Dolan and Mr. Gilliam are happy with 90 days, that's something
Is
that
that
I
all
can, yep.
I'm okay with it.
All right. We have a motion and a support. Roll call, please.
Within 90 days. Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
May I ask one question?
On this topic?
Yes, on this topic. Are you going to Mr. Aragona, are you going to do a little survey?
That's a good
Okay,
follow-up.
or
I
no?
can make some calls. I don't know if we want Mary Bednar to do it. I'm okay with it.
We have Brian Gerard.
Mary Bednar is the one who did this in the first place
Okay.
and brought it forward to the committee, so
Okay.
she should probably continue on.
Okay,
Yes.
because I do agree with the.
Find more
you know,
comparables,
yeah,
basically,
and-
as I
and
think
other,
what
priority
asking
or
for.
whomever,
And not simply more, just other
other
companies.
companies.
With,
Correct.
in similar
find other
communities.
comparables that have other providers.
Yeah, yes.
That was my question. Thank you.
Item 12, go into closed session. We will not be coming out with a decision.
Pending litigation, Roche versus Clinton Township, Michigan tax rate.
Thank you. Who supported them?
I made the motion.
Motion and supported by Mr. Keys.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes,
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
thank you. Approval of the minutes of the August 12th regular township board meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Support.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
Approval of the bills.
So moved.
Is there a-
Support.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes,
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
thank you. First public comment is Robert and Janet Phillips.
Robert Phillips, 17501 Merriweather Street, and I want to thank you for letting us have a moment to speak with you. The home that's next to us, 17523 Merriweather, has a marijuana operation going on there. And there's some concerns that we have with that. I know that your hands are tied in many ways because of what the state has, what the law was passed recently. But one of our concerns is there's already a mold smell coming from the home. And we understand that in homes where there is these marijuana operations, that eventually it will begin reeking of the marijuana. So I wanted the board to maybe consider some type of ordinance that would require air remediation systems be placed in these homes so that that smell would not be around the house. There's children in our neighborhood. Our grandchildren come over to visit, and it's only 5 feet away from our house. I mean, the houses are close together, so that smell is going to permeate, and, you know, it could affect the health of children. And there's also studies that show that when ones are in the development stage, that the effects of marijuana can be more devastating than it is on adults. Also, if consideration was given to an air remediation system being required in these type of homes, that some kind of air quality certification might be in order, so that someone comes out and tests and makes sure that it is indeed meeting air quality standards, and perhaps regular testing for that, so that that would be protect the public. Also, another issue that we have with this is code enforcement of this. We understand that an individual can have 12 plants for his own use. And then if he's a caretaker, he can have up to 5 people that he takes care of, which means now he can add another 60, which is 72 plants that could be grown in a particular home. And that's what's going on at the house next to us, that marijuana operation. In fact, he's already pulled out 2 U-Haul trucks full of marijuana out of the house since they bought the house in March. So, well, we'll get to that in a minute. So my question is, when it comes to code enforcement, as to the number of plants that are being grown there and so on and so forth, what is in place for that code enforcement? And when was the last inspection that would have been taken place at that particular home? That would be a question that I'd like to have answered.
Your time is up, but I'm going to have our attorney briefly give you a reply. It's not a back and forth. He will give you a brief
Right.
reply.
My suggestion is that you talk to Mr. Miller, who's the head of our building department. Barry Miller is his name. Recently, we passed an ordinance dealing with odor issues, in part recognizing that some of these changes in the law might create new odor problems. He can give you some information on that. We're also, we have an ordinance now that does restrict the quantity of space that can be used in a residential home for growing marijuana. However, there are some court decisions, including a published Michigan Court of Appeals decision, that has some impact on that. That case, however, is before the Michigan Supreme Court. They're entertaining argument on it. Those arguments in the decision have not been completed, so there may be some changes on that. You can speak to him, and if you want to call my office, I'd be glad to give you the name and citation for that case.
Okay, could I just have one more minute to?
Brief.
Real brief. The other thing is for personal use, the owner occupant can do this, but there is nobody occupying that home. It's vacant. So how can there be for personal use if there is no occupant in the building? And then the last thing is, we're concerned about criminal problems. Royal Oak Township just recently had a shooting at one of these homes, and we're concerned that that kind of thing is going to happen next to us.
I'm very sorry that that's happening to you.
Okay. Thank you very much for hearing
I
us.
have a few phone numbers for you.
Okay, thank you.
So, but before you leave.
Our second is Sam Bushell.
Sam Bushell, 18546 Wayland. This is, again, is the property that I brought up last week, and, or last meeting, 37641 Groesbeck. It was sold as an empty lot for $260,000. When it was sold, obviously, the cap should have been lifted and to go to $130,000 value as an empty lot. A business was added. I did a FOIA request that shows that there's no site plan, no permits. There is a new gravel lot. There's a new 6-foot fence surrounding it. There's new signage. The taxable and state SEV, with the cap being listed, is $94,600. That's $35,400 less than 50%. Any homeowner in the township who paid $260,000 for a lot that got this assessment would be happy. But to have that and then add a business, a major business, to the property and have the taxes still be $94,600, which is less, like I said, by $34,000, a taxable value of $35,400 less than it should be for an empty lot. That is insane, and it's quite hard to believe that the township, I know last week, the last meeting, it was like, oh, we're aware of this. I'm sure the township by now is aware of it because I put in FOIAs and everything else. The business is there. It's easy to see. The improvements are there. It's easy to see. It's not being taxed, and it's not up to code. And I think this board should do something about it. And I realize most of my letters come in and they get crickets back, and I send a lot of letters. I'm not embarrassed about that. And there again, with the fence ordinance today, I've got part of my questions to the to be answered tonight are that there's a new fence that was put up right near me. It's a 6-foot-tall privacy fence, and the building department says they don't even need permits for it. So it's not on the taxable value. So I think that's a real problem. If the builder can come in, the building superintendent can come in here and say, you change any wood in a residential area, you got to come up to code. But businesses don't. They don't even have to have permits. That's ridiculous.
Thank you. A motion is in order to adjourn our meeting to go into closed session.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gillum?
Yes.
Mrs. Melcher, yes. Motion
Thank you.
passes.
Go into closed session.